It's just, I feel I've been called to be here today. I'm Palestinian originally, and I'm watching what is happening, and tomorrow I decided to create this event, to create a new conversation with the feminine leaders coming in, to bring in the feminine voice and leadership and new way of being. So I feel I'm holding something new that I've been called to do, and also I'm holding this history and the trauma, and it gets very confusing at times. Being pulled in different directions and being silenced as well, externally feeling that other people are being silenced because they express their views. And I've tried different kinds of activism, and I've been on this path of inner work for more than 20 years now. And I'm wondering, in what feels to me this shifting evolutionary time that we are going through, something can turn, and yet watching other people suffer, and children especially, is excruciatingly painful. And I don't know how to hold it, how to hold this, like as somebody who's originally, we've been raised to resist all the time, resist occupation, resist oppression, resist, so there's that kind of like resistance to oppression, and then not resisting also the feelings and the pain. And I'm sorry, I'm trying. I have a like a call. It's like a call and a request for guidance in these difficult times. What can we do? What can we do? What can I do to bring in this peace consciousness and love, and have it stop? Like, I'm just fed up.
Yes, for sure. I don't know if I have all the answers to that, but as one who has also experienced war, as a child, I was in a war zone. I know the terror and the injustice to the innocence of those situations. The reality is, if we take a broader view, is that humanity has, as far as we know, always been at war. There have been wars all over the place. Some terrible, well, they're all terrible, aren't they? But smaller wars, local wars, global wars have been occurring for many thousands of years. I don't know what happened before that, if there was a before that, and how it went in that direction, but it is a raw fact, at least on the level of humanity, that there have been wars and suffering and atrocities taking place for millennia. On that level, this is nothing new, what takes place now. What's new is that we all hear about it a lot more easily, because we have access to the internet and so on, whereas thousands of years ago, we would not know about the atrocities taking place in another town, in another country, and so on. None of what I'm saying actually helps the situation. I'm just adding another view to it, to the question of what can we do? On the level that I'm speaking of, in that sense, we are helpless and powerless in terms of what to do. If we really want to go down the way, which I don't really want to right now, but I'll just touch on it, of what goes on behind the scenes, there are forces much bigger than, or seemingly much bigger than you or I or any individual, any sane individual. There are forces, political forces, economic forces, we could call them dark forces, that want war. What can we do on that level? That is unanswerable, even in the realm of awakened consciousness. I certainly saw from my situation, even though I was a child, I was a teenager, that the reason for the war that took place completely unexpectedly, out of the blue, it seemed from one day to the next, seemed to have nothing to do with the people on the ground, the ordinary people, but was a political, military operation, of which I cannot know all the details, neither do I care to know all the details. It's not my job, but I know that it had nothing to do with the people on the ground. If you are in a position of power or influence on the level I'm speaking of, then perhaps we can do something. And that's really our hope, that individuals that are sane, that are of the light of consciousness, are at some point in humanity's condition, evolution, entering positions of what we might call power on a worldly level. That's the only way it's going to change, really. What do we do as you and I? We can only meet it as it is. The horror of it, the heartbreak of it, and not add to that division. And if you are in a position as a conflict resolutionist or whatever it is, or an activist, or one on the ground who helps those who are suffering, then you do that. But we must not add to that division. It's not the Palestinians or the Israelis or the whatever it is, whichever side it is that is at fault. It is the controlling forces that play on the divided state that is in the individual because it is born of ignorance of true nature, ultimately. I don't know if any of that is of any value, my dear. But we must, in some ways, I don't know if we must, but I guess the calling is to not see ourselves as this or that, to not see ourselves as being identified with just one nation or one culture or one belief system or one religious ideology. And in some ways to bring that, not being affiliated, not being identified with this or that into our daily lives, with our friends, with our parents, with our children, with our whatever. Because it's not the fault of those seemingly different identities. And yet it plays on those identities, because every identity has a culture, has a history and a memory. And then we can be justified in that identity. But I think that's where we can start to undo it. Yes, you were born in Palestine, maybe, or have a Palestinian culture. Yes, I was born wherever I was born in the Mediterranean. But ultimately, we're not that. We're just one humanity. How can we bring that into our daily lives? and communicate from that and be from that without adding another ideology. I think perhaps that might be the most valuable way.